They told me New York never lets you go. The hatch screamed as I forced it open, rusted steel shrieking like it wanted to drag me back. For a moment, I thought the hinges would snap and slam me into the dark belly of the old submarine forever. Then it gave way, and daylight, sharp, merciless Manhattan daylight, cut into the gloom. I climbed out into the heat like a man surfacing from his own grave. The air hit first. Hot asphalt, diesel exhaust, scorched steel from the Brooklyn docks. No brine, no seaweed. The Hudson didn't smell like the sea anymore. Money, policy, and runoff had sterilized it into something chemical and controlled. I stood with my boots on cracked concrete, my palms pressed to the battered hull of the sub. She was scarred with every scrape of my past. Depth charges, uncharted rock ledges, a pirate skiff that nearly carved us open. I traced each dent like rosary beads. "You've done enough?" I whispered. My voice sounded like it belonged to an older man. Across the river, Manhattan rose like a cathedral of glass and steel. Times Square screens blazed ticker symbols, ad loops, and campaign feeds. The skyline pulsed with corporate names. Global Tech in mirrored brass above a black marble lobby. Global Tech glowing in LED across a skybridge. Global Tech stamped into the drone patrols that whirred past like dragonflies with badges. I walked toward the pier checkpoint. Customs wasn't a bored officer with a stamp anymore. It was a glass throat that swallowed me whole. A scanner column bathed my face in blue lines, counting pores like rings in a tree. Identity: Nicholas Moreno. Status: missing, presumed deceased. Would you like to reactivate? I hesitated, then said, "Call me Yuli." Alias accepted. Yuli. Welcome back. The scanner's beam grazed my wrist and woke up a long-forgotten chip under my scar tissue. It vibrated like a trapped insect. I closed my fist so no one saw me flinch. A panel slid open and spat out a thin gray phone with Global Tech embossed across the back. The screen bloomed at my touch, filling with maps, subway overlays, stock tickers, hazard warnings, and push alerts. Penny Alvarez to speak at Global Tech HQ. 6 p.m. Live Senator Donovan surges after debate Budro silent as markets shift #marriage merger. Which suitor should Penny choose? Vote now. My chest tightened. Penny. Penelope Alvarez. My wife, if the word still meant anything in a city that turned marriages into mergers. I shoved the phone into my pocket and kept walking. The streets had changed. The walk from the docks used to mean vendors hawking oranges and knockoff sneakers, stray cats weaving through crates of fish. Now, boutiques pumped in twice-filtered air at body temperature. Nike still had a store, but the shoes tracked your ambition. Hermes still sold belts, but they shocked your abs into honesty. The old gods of commerce hadn't died. They'd rebranded. On a bollard, a kid in an owl print hoodie charged his e-scooter. He squinted at me. "Yo, what's with the boat? Looks like a movie prop." "It was real enough when the hull sang," I said. He smirked like he wasn't sure whether I was crazy or poetic. "You look like something out of my granddad's documentaries." "Be kind to him," I said and moved on. Times Square hit me like a hammer. 100-foot holoscreen unspooled Penny's face. Penelope Alvarez, CEO, Global Tech. She walked across a glass atrium in a navy suit, cool and untouchable. Beneath her, a countdown ticked toward her speech. Then came the suitors. 4 faces, each algorithmically designed to please. Senator Eric Donovan. Silver hair, rolled sleeves, handshake king of Iowa cornfields. Phil Chun. Tech wunderkind in a black tee and untied sneakers, promising updates for democracy. Angela Vega. Philanthropic billionaire, gray suit, silver streak in her hair, smiling with earnest eyes. Victor Budro. No face, just a voice and a black square over cascading numbers. Mary Stability. Mary Innovation. Mary Compassion. Mary Power. The hashtag pulsed across every screen. #marriage merger. I turned away, pulse hammering. I'd survived wars, mutinies, and storms. But this was a battlefield where contracts were weapons and love was leverage. "Mr. Moreno?" a voice asked. I spun. A young woman in a Global Tech jacket stood there, smart glasses flickering with overlays only she could see. Her hair shifted color with the light, black to cobalt, precise in a way no accident could be. "I'm Leah Tran," she said, extending a hand. "Your civic liaison. The city's assigned me to help you reacclimate." "I didn't ask for that. New York doesn't wait for permission," she said with a faint smile. I followed her. She guided me through midtown canyons where corporate lobbies looked like cathedrals. At 42nd Street, a fountain of digital water climbed upward against gravity, cheered by tourists. "This is New York now," she said. "Capital of global tech. Democracy digitized. Loyalty monetized. Marriage is alliance. I fought wars for a flag," I said. "Now I come home to a logo." "Logos last longer," she answered. We stopped before a tower of glass and marble at 1 Vanderbilt, its surface alive with reflections of sky and stock tickers. Above the doors in gold letters, Global Tech HQ. Through the lobby windows, I saw Penny, taller than memory, framed by marble and neon. She stood at a glass desk, Suitor logos flickering before her like scavenger birds. Then she raised her hand, dismissed them all, and turned. Her eyes found mine. For one impossible moment, everything stopped. Drones, tickers, even the city's pulse. She knew me. She let it show, just for a second. Then her jaw tightened. "You shouldn't be here," she called down. The words hit harder than any war. I swallowed steel. Neither should they. Liatran didn't ask if I was ready. She just tapped her smart glasses, and my Global Tech-issued phone lit up with 4 windows, each tagged to a location. "Donovan, Chun, Vega, Budro," she said, each one staging their touchpoint before Penny's speech. "Pay attention to what they don't say." Senator Eric Donovan, Civic Commons. Union Square. We hit Union Square just as the AR projectors lit. Overnight, they transformed the plaza into a golden wheat field. The stalks swayed in perfect sync with the breeze that ruffled Donovan's sleeves. He stood waist-deep in the digital crop, tie loosened, grin wide enough to split the block. "People love a man who can pretend to sweat," I muttered. Dozens of actors posed as farmers. Children's choirs sang hymns whose lyrics updated in real time to insert each listener's name. When they sang mine, Yuli, my chest clenched despite myself. Donovan bent to kiss a grandmother's hand, lifted a toddler to shoulder height. Every motion rehearsed for the cameras circling above. And the crowd swooned. "Friends," he boomed without a mic, because men like him bend the air. Marriage and city are the same. A covenant. "Give me your trust, and I'll make the law love you again." The wheat brightened to gold. For a breath, a ghostly map of voting districts flickered across the field, then vanished. "His base is the older blocks," Liao whispered. "He promises they can stop time if they sign the right documents." I turned away. Enough. Phil Chun, Apex Tech Campus. Soho. From Union Square, we pushed south into Soho's gleaming glass cube that Apex Tech had claimed. Phil Chun's campus was all white and chrome, screens unfurling from the floor like petals. He wore the uniform of his tribe. Black tee, sneakers untied, jacket cut just wrong enough to cost a year's rent. "Family," he shouted, arms spread wide. His voice crackled with the practiced charm of a prodigy who never paid for his mistakes. Behind him, 1,000 stolen images of Penny rotated in profile. Each was paired with an upgrade Chun promised. Instant referendums through blockchain apps, tokenized loyalty systems that turned citizenship into points. Penelope.ai, a companion that would extend her spirit to every employee, meaning 24/7 surveillance wrapped in a smile. "Don't," I barked before I could stop myself. He caught like bait. "Sir, you have notes." "I have history." He grinned, milking it. "History is a beta you never shipped. We're here to deploy the future." The crowd laughed on cue. His demo of Penelope.ai, I stole her voice so perfectly that 3 staffers gasped and 1 nearly fell to their knees. I left before he could trap me in a canned A. "He wants a license," Lias said, walking fast, "to use Penny's name like a seed phrase." 3. Angela Vega, Riverside Auditorium, Upper West Side. The Hudson glittered with lanterns as we reached Riverside. Angela Vega's stage was the river itself, lined with small boats, each carrying a single flame. She walked on stage without fanfare, in a gray suit that fit like quiet authority. Her silver hair caught the last of the sun. She smiled with her eyes first, then her mouth, then her shoulders, every part of her easing in sequence like she was teaching the crowd how to breathe. "I will not marry Penny Alvarez," she said. The gasp was audible. "Because I will not marry a woman to win a kingdom. I will marry her governance to you. The people who made her." The choir of teenagers sang from boats. No auto-tune, no reverb. Just raw, earnest voices echoing off the water. Behind her, screens showed hospitals and schools she'd funded. Supply trucks she'd sent into disaster zones. No logos, no slogans, just work. "She's the most dangerous," I whispered. "Because she means it?" Leah asked. "Because she knows how to mean it well. She'll do good and take the city while doing it." Vega invited a widow on stage, held her hand while she spoke about a collapsed building. Vega didn't steal the mic, didn't put her own face on screen, just stood beside her, and the crowd melted. For Victor Budro, Warehouse Row, Lower Manhattan. Leah's glasses dimmed suddenly. The feeds dropped into static. "Budro," she said. "Everywhere," which means nowhere. We followed a trail of silence into the shadow of old warehouse basements near the World Trade Center. Security gates parted when Liao whispered passwords like old prayers. The room inside was sleek, cold, concrete polished until it lied about its age. A long table, a chessboard missing its knights. On the pieces, someone had scratched letters by hand. "P," I murmured, turning one in my palm. Budro's voice filled the air, disembodied, smooth as glass. "Ulysses, welcome home. He sends her reality," Liao whispered. "That's his proposal. Not flowers, not rings, numbers." I circled the room, finding seams in the concrete where walls had been cut and erased. "You want her?" I asked the voice. "I want her to accept my help," he replied, "and the freedom that comes with it." "She's already free." "No," he said, "not until she owes me." The lights flickered. Leah's voice tightened. "He's seeding the feeds, spinning you into their story already. Hero returns, threatens stability." I gripped the knight in my hand. "You'll fail." "I don't fail," he said. I exit. The line went dead. Back on the streets, the city had turned into a stage. Donovan's wheat lingered as AR residue. Chun's filters filled students' phones. Vega's lanterns still floated down the Hudson. And Budro's silence seeped into every feed. "This isn't a courtship," I said. "It's a siege." "And you," Leah said quietly, "just walked onto the battlefield." The Global Tech Tower rose like a shard of glass carved out of the sky. At street level, the plaza was already choking with crowds. Protesters waved signs, and no mergers. "Penelope, keep your name. Don't marry power." Above them, drones hovered in formation, their red eyes flickering like a crown no one wore. Leah and I entered through a side concourse lined with marble columns older than the subway. Inside, the air was crisp, scrubbed until it felt sterile. My boots sank into carpets woven with golden threads that shifted beneath the soles, as if the building itself was alive. The atrium wall lit up, a 30-meter screen looping Penny's image. She sat at a glass desk, proposals orbiting her like satellites. Logos shimmered. Donovan's crest, Chun's infinity loop, Vega's dove, Budro's faceless square. Each one whispered its poison slogan: "Marry stability. Marry innovation. Marry compassion. Marry power." I clenched my fists. They weren't suitors. They were scavengers. "Every day," Leah said softly, "she receives proposals. Not flowers. Mergers. Acquisitions." The board measures her worth in refusals. We moved deeper. Holographic assistants glided past, murmuring schedules. Executives in designer suits whispered over floating spreadsheets. Some glanced at me like I was a broken sword they didn't know whether to throw out or frame on the wall. Then the room shifted. She appeared. Penny Alvarez descended a staircase of glass, framed by light. Her hair was tied in a knot, gleaming like dark bronze. Her navy suit was simple, sharp, and more commanding than any crown. She didn't notice me at first. She was focused on the logos swarming around her. Then she raised her hand, and with one flick dismissed them all. The room froze. Silence thickened. Her gaze swept across the atrium and found me. "Yuli," she said. Not a question. A verdict. For years, I'd rehearsed this moment. I'd rolled words in my mouth during long nights in the submarine. Apologies, explanations, declarations. But when I saw her, they all vanished. "Penny," I managed. The drones hushed. Even the data streams seemed to pause mid-scroll. She came down the steps, every stride measured. When she reached me, she didn't touch me. She didn't smile. She studied me like a ruin, wondering if it could be restored. "I buried you," she whispered. "The city buried you. And now here you are, walking into my house as if the years never happened." "They happened," I said. "They happen to me every day. And I came back because this is home." "Home." Her voice was flint. "Home has shareholders now. Home has suitors at the door every morning. You left with the war. I stayed with the walls. I wanted to reach for her. But I saw the suitors' logos reflected in her eyes, and I knew this wasn't reunion. It was war. They'll take everything," I warned. "They've tried for 10 years," she said. "And I'm still here." Her voice cracked, the tiniest fracture. Only I would notice. I lowered mine. "Then let me stand with you." Her gaze hardened. "If you stand with me, you'll be in their crosshairs. And ghosts don't get forgiven. I've never asked forgiveness. For a heartbeat." Her lips curved. Not quite a smile, not quite forgiveness. Then she straightened. Her voice carried across the atrium. "Watch," she said. "Watch how a woman without a husband keeps her throne." With that, she turned back to the screens, summoning the suitors' proposals again. Their faces, their promises, their power plays filled the air. But the current had shifted. For the first time since I'd returned, I wasn't just a ghost. I was part of the story again. I've always believed the heart of any war beats in places no one photographs. Not the battlefield, not the speeches, not the balcony smiles. The real war lives in back rooms, warehouses, and the silences where people agree to risk everything together. New York hadn't changed that part. The rendezvous point was a defunct shipping hub on the southern edge of Brooklyn, a warehouse rusting into the waterfront. From the street, it looked abandoned. Shuttered windows, weeds splitting pavement, security cameras charred black. But below, the place thrummed with hidden life. Liao led me down 2 flights of stairs. At the bottom, she pressed her palm against a panel that scanned pulse, iris, breath. "This far only," she said. "Inside, they'll decide if you're still theirs. You'll see." The steel door opened. The air hit like old secrets. Burnt coffee, overheated servers, metal warmed by too many machines. Fluorescent strips buzzed overhead. And there, at the long table, were the ghosts I thought I'd never see again. Nestor sat at the head. His beard was silver now, but his eyes cut sharp. He wore a patched jacket that carried insignias from wars and hustles long past. "Hate he spit you out after all," he rasped. "We lit candles for you a dozen times." I stopped wasting wax. "You should have saved some," I said. He barked a laugh. Same tongue as ever. Beside him, Hermes leaned, restless, tapped at a hacked-together rig that looked alive with wires. He'd once carried messages through blockades. Now he ran them through firewalls no sane man touched. He grinned. "Captain, you look like hell. Must mean you're telling the truth." Further down, Callista leaned forward, eyes like knives. Once intelligence, always intelligence. She mapped the exits, counted the vents, weighed every face in the room. "You came back to a city that doesn't want you," she said. "Brave. Or stupid." "Both," I admitted. Against the wall stood Ajax. Huge, scarred, silent. I hadn't seen him since the siege at Melos Station. He didn't speak, just nodded once. That was enough. I faced them. The suitors are circling Penny. Donovan with his false wheat, Chun with his mirrors, Vega with her mercy, Budro with his shadows. They're not just after her. They're after New York. They'll carve this city into shares and sell it piece by piece. "And you want us to stop them?" Nestor said flatly. "Yes." Hermes whistled low. For enemies, each with their own army. And us? A handful of ghosts meeting under broken lights. Ajax finally rumbled, voice like distant thunder. We've done more with less. Callista leaned in. Before you vanished, you led us through wars of blood and steel. This is different. This is data, optics, influence. Do you even understand what battlefield you're standing in? I pulled the global tech phone from my pocket, projected its overlays onto the table. Donovan's demographics, Chun's viral cascades, Vega's donation networks, Budro's disinformation webs. The lines and numbers glowed across their faces. I understand enough, I said. And I know the city needs truth more than wheat fields, code tricks, or shadows. Nestor stroked his beard. Truth doesn't win wars. Stories do. Each of them has the better story right now. Then we dismantle theirs, I said, piece by piece. Expose them. Let the city see the rot beneath the polish. Hermes grinned like a fox. Leaks, hacks, dossiers, I like where this is going. Expose too much too fast, Callista warned, and no one will believe it. Budro will spin it as fabrication. They'll say it anyway. I replied. Silence. Then Nestor. So what's your play? I reached inside my jacket and set a fingernail-sized chip on the table. Cold, inconspicuous, but heavy with consequence. What's that? Hermes asked. Evidence, I said. Bribes. Shell companies. Sabotage contracts. Every Suitors dirt. Donovan funneling money from foreign royals. Phil Chun defrauding investors. Angela Vega's charities funded by hedge funds she denounces. And Budro, I stopped, the weight of it pressing on my chest. And Budro, Nestor asked. He's not just stealing, I said. He's rewriting, crashing markets, seeding riots with bots, engineering fear. He doesn't buy influence, he manufactures it out of lies. The table glowed with their crimes as Hermes linked the chip to his rig. Trails of money lit like neon arteries. Video clips, contracts, bank ledgers. Donovan shaking hands with monarchs while foreign cash flowed into his campaign. Chun laughing in private calls as he siphoned millions into fake betas. Vega handing out blankets in front of cameras. Blankets her own company had sold to her nonprofit at a profit. And Budro, invisible, everywhere. Market crashes with fingerprints only in code. Protests sparked by digital ghosts. Hermes whistled. Dynamite. No, I said. Testimony. And testimony is always dangerous. The room fell silent, save for the hum of servers. Each of them was measuring me. Not the evidence. Me. Did I still have the mind, the will, the rage to carry this through? Finally, Nestor leaned forward. You've been gone too long. But maybe you're the only one mad enough to pull this off. Hermes slapped the table. Captain's back. Callista's eyes narrowed, razor sharp. Then we'd better be ready for the war he's bringing. Ajax crossed his arms, silent but certain. His presence was enough. I looked at them all. The old war, council reborn in the shadows of New York. The Suitors had their screens and slogans. We had scars, secrets, and a chip full of truth. It would have to be enough. By late afternoon, New York was vibrating. The streets around Midtown became arteries pumping the same fevered blood. Drones hovered above intersections, their lenses tilting down like watchful gods. Screens on every surface blared the countdown. 2 hours, 19 minutes, and 37 seconds until Penny speaks. Times Square glowed brighter than daylight. Every face in the city reflected in its glass. I moved through the crush with Leah at my side, watching how the Suitors bled into the city. Their fingerprints were everywhere. Donovan's Bread Union Square smelled of yeast. Bakeries had popped up overnight, handing out loaves stamped with Donovan's crest. Young men in crisp shirts waved them like communion offerings. The AR wheat field lingered in people's feeds. Their phones told them exactly when to nod, when to laugh, when to clap. They think they're agreeing with themselves, I muttered, but they're just following code. Leah's lenses glowed as she mapped the influence. He's strongest with nostalgia. Promises they can rewind to when the law loved them. I wanted to spit. Donovan wasn't feeding them bread. He was feeding them memories rewritten, Chin's filters in Soho. Teenagers flooded sidewalks, their faces hijacked by Chin's AR filters. Every selfie replaced their eyes with his Infinity Loop logo. Every clip redubbed their voices with his. They laughed, posted, went viral. Without realizing it, they were building him into their own reflections. A boy waved a glowing holographic torch. "Future," he shouted, voice cracking. "Update the world." The crowd laughed, uploaded it, spread it until it was no longer one boy's cry. It was the city's chant. "Does he even believe it?" I asked. Leah didn't look up from her overlays. "Doesn't matter. The algorithm believes for him." Vega's gray dove on the Upper West Side. Vega's posters hung from brownstones, muted gray with her image beside teachers, nurses, janitors. Each poster carried a QR code. People scanned without thinking. Small donations siphoned silently, one after another. We passed a clinic running under her foundation's name. Inside, children received vaccinations. No press, no logos, just care. Parents walked out carrying gratitude like a brand stamped on their skin. "She doesn't buy votes," I said. "She earns them," Leah replied. "That's why she's the most dangerous." Budro's shadow, then came the silence. In the financial district, screens went black. No faces, no slogans. Just numbers scrolling down in pale green font. Stock crashes, leaked memos, balance sheets that may or may not have been real. Men in suits stood on the curb, speaking into phones, never saying his name. But Leah's lenses lit up threads between them like spider silk. "They don't see him," I said. "They see inevitability." She nodded. "He doesn't ask them to love him. He just asks them to fear missing out when he wins." The siege by the time we reached Bryant Park. The city was trembling with anticipation. Protesters waved homemade signs and mergers. "Don't marry power." "Penny, keep your name." On the opposite side, Donovan supporters held their loaves aloft like shields. Chin's crowd streamed the standoff live, layering filters until even anger looked marketable. Vega's lanterns floated down the river, a quiet current threading through the noise. And everywhere, Budro's silence pressed like a hand over the city's mouth. The plaza outside Global Tech was a cauldron. Screens counted down minutes now, not hours. Drones shifted into a hovering halo above the tower. Cops in tactical blue kept their eyes on the crowd, but their hands off their holsters. They knew better than to spark the wrong clip. "They're staging this for the cameras," I said. "No," Leah corrected. "They're staging it for the algorithms. The cameras are a courtesy." I scanned the plaza. This wasn't a courtship anymore. This was a siege, and Penny was the prize. The Global Tech doors opened. Executives in dark suits lined the balcony. The drones repositioned a mechanical crown. The crowd surged forward, chants layering over chants, slogans fighting in the air like birds. Leah tilted her head, glyphs flashing across her eyes. "You wanted to stand with her," she said quietly. "This is what standing looks like here." "I've stood in worse places," I said. "I don't doubt it." She adjusted her glasses. "Time." I looked up at the tower. The countdown blinked 5 minutes. The air thrummed, a storm about to break. And somewhere inside, Penny was walking toward the balcony. The innermost chamber of Global Tech wasn't meant for the public. Past the glass walls and polished marble, past the silence of money, there was a room stripped bare. One table, a fog window, gray light bleeding through. Penny stood at the far end. She had changed, and she had not. The years had carved new lines around her eyes, shoulders squared under the weight of empires. But the way her fingers pressed the table's edge, the faint tremor in her lips when she thought no one was watching, that was the Penny I'd left. "Yuli," she said. The name cracked like an accusation. "Penny." For a long beat, we didn't move. 2 statues in a room designed for living. Finally, she gestured. "Sit." I did. She didn't. "You shouldn't have come back." I didn't have a choice. "There's always a choice," she said, her voice sharpened by years of boardrooms and battles. "You chose the war. You chose absence. And now you choose to return, risking everything I built without you." I leaned forward. "I walked your city today. Donovan's wheat, Chin's mirrors, Vega's mercy, Budro's shadow. They circle you like jackals. You're telling me my being here is the danger? Yes, she said, without hesitation. Because you're the ghost they've been waiting for. Her words cut sharper than any suitor's pitch. They'll use you, she continued. Donovan will call you proof the old kings must return. Chun will frame you as a relic who doesn't understand innovation. Vega will pity you, fold you into her mercy. And Budro, her jaw tightened. He'll erase you and profit from your absence. I swallowed. And you? What will you make of me? She stepped closer, just enough for me to see the faint scar on her jaw. Something I hadn't been there to stop. I don't know yet. Do you hate me? I asked. Her eyes cut glass. For leaving? For staying gone? So long I buried you? For returning now? Threatening to undo all of this? Yes. I hate you. The words nearly dropped me. But she wasn't done. And yet, her voice softened. I can't walk through this city without remembering you. Every contract I sign, I hear your voice asking if it's a trap. Every night, I lock the doors against suitors. I wonder what it would be like if you were here beside me. I rose slowly, steady, until I stood across from her. I'm not here to take your crown. I'm here to fight with you. She stared, breath trembling, lips pressed thin. You fight. That's all you know. Then let me fight for you. The room held its breath. For a moment, I thought she might take my hand. Instead, she turned to the fogged window. With a gesture, it cleared, revealing the city below. Banners waving, slogans screaming, suitors' faces burning across towers. Look, she said, this is what I've kept alive. Without you. Do you think I don't know how to fight? I stepped beside her. I know you do. That's why I came back. Not to save you. To stand with you. In the glass reflection, our eyes met. For the first time, she didn't look untouchable. She looked human. You're a fool, she whispered. I always was. And there, above the neon siege of New York, I swore I would not leave her again. Act 7. The War Council, the heart of rebellion, lived underground. The old shipping hub basement was crowded with servers, cables, and ghosts. My War Council, Nestor, Hermes, Callista, Ajax, sat around the table. I laid the chip down. Small, cold, the size of a fingernail. What's on it? Callista asked, voice flat. Evidence, I said. Donovan, Chun, Vega, Budro. Every dirty contract, every bribe trail, every sabotage order. Blockchain sealed. Unalterable. Hermes snapped it into his rig. The room lit with cascading trails of data. Donovan, cultural exchanges, funneling foreign royal money into his campaign coffers. Chun, recorded laughing about vaporware apps, siphoning millions. Vega, blankets handed out to refugees, supplied by a company her own foundation secretly owned. And Budro, numbers shifting, riots seeded by bots, markets collapsed by hidden commands. The ghosts of their crimes painted the room in neon. Hermes whistled, pure dynamite. No, I said, testimony. And testimony is always dangerous. Silence followed. They weren't measuring the evidence. They were measuring me. Did I still have the will to steal? Finally, Nestor leaned forward. You've been gone too long, but maybe you're mad enough to pull this off. Captain's back, Hermes grinned. Callista narrowed her eyes. We'll need proof the people can't ignore. No half measures. Ajax rumbled low, his voice like a subway undercurrent. And when they fight back, then we fight harder, I said. The War Council wasn't what it had been. We weren't young. We weren't many. But in the shadows of New York, we'd just drawn battle lines. Act 8. The city tilts above ground. The city was ready to combust. Protests clashed in Bryant Park. Donovan's men lifted loaves like shields. Chun's crowd live-streamed themselves, filters smearing slogans over every face. Vega's gray dove crests hung from windows, her clinics quietly working in the background. And everywhere, Budro's silence pressed in, numbers, whispers, inevitability. The countdown ticked under 10 minutes. Screens blinked in unison across Manhattan. Penelope Alvarez to speak. The crowd surged. Chants braided into one deafening roar. Drones shifted like a crown above the global tech tower. The city felt like it was leaning toward her balcony, gravity itself bent toward her. Vega glanced at me. This is it. The stage is hers. The suitors think they own the narrative. You're just a ghost in their story. Not for long, I said, because somewhere inside, Penny was preparing to step out. And when she did, New York would tilt toward her, toward them, or maybe toward me. For the first time since I returned, I knew the war wasn't in the past. It was here, now, in the heart of the city, and I was done being a ghost. The countdown hit 0. The balcony doors of Global Tech HQ parted, and Penny Alvarez stepped into the light. The plaza erupted. Donovan's wheat-waving crowd roared. Chun's live streamers flooded feeds. Vega's doves soared over screens. Budro's silence deepened like a storm cloud. Penny raised her hand. The noise fractured, then stilled. She stood without notes, without a mic, her voice projected by drones that circled like mechanical angels. For 10 years, she began, you've asked me who I belong to, which suitor, which party, which alliance. For 10 years, I've told you the same thing. I belong to this city, to no one else. A ripple ran through the crowd. Donovan's men tightened their grips on bread loaves. Chun's followers spammed hashtags. Vega's supporters pressed hands over hearts. Somewhere in the silence, Budro's algorithm's word. Penny continued, steady, commanding. Stability cannot be bought with nostalgia. Innovation cannot be trusted when built on lies. Mercy must be more than a photo op. And power without accountability is nothing but theft. The crowd shifted. Slogans faltered. For the first time, the suitors' stories cracked. And so I will not marry stability. I will not marry disruption. I will not marry mercy. I will not marry power. I will stand, alone, as myself. The plaza exploded, not with chaos, but with awe. Screens flickered, feeds froze. Even algorithms struggled to contain it. And then the evidence dropped. Hermes, hidden in the crowd, triggered the chip. Data cascaded across every screen. Donovan's bribes, Chun's scams, Vega's laundering, Budro's manipulations. Contracts, ledgers, leaked calls, irrefutable, undeniable. The crowd roared again, this time in fury. Donovan's supporters tore up their loaves. Chun's followers ripped off his filters. Vega's donors stared at her posters like they'd been betrayed. And Budro's silence? It shattered, replaced by the noise of a city that no longer believed him. Act X, the collapse the suitors fell in real time. Donovan's campaign managers fled Union Square, wheat fields dissolving into glitches. Chun's livestream glitched as filters inverted, showing not his logo but his bank transfers. Vega tried to speak, but the recordings drowned her voice. Her gray dove cracked into a crow. And Budro, his shadow ripped open. Numbers turned against him, his own bots flooding the net with proof of his manipulations. The city was on fire, but not with flames, with truth. Police tried to corral protesters, but the feed showed everything. Helicopters circled. The market halted. News anchors stammered, caught mid-broadcast as the evidence hijacked their screens. On the balcony, Penny didn't flinch. She let the truth burn around her. And for one impossible moment, the suitors who had hunted her were gone. Not defeated, not vanished, but undone. Act 11. The aftermath night fell on a city that still pulsed with anger. The suitors retreated into silence, their names dragged through feeds, their faces cursed in chants. New York didn't forgive easily. Inside Global Tech, Penny stood by the fogged glass window, watching lanterns drift down the Hudson. I approached quietly. For the first time in years, I felt no need to speak first. She broke the silence. They'll come back. Not these four, maybe, but others. They always come back. I know, I said. That's why I'm staying. She turned. Her eyes, still sharp, softened just enough. You can't fix what you left broken. No, I admitted, but I can fight what's coming. For a long moment, we stood there. No crown, no throne, no suitors, no war council. Just two people in the ruins of a battle neither of us had wanted, but both had survived. Finally, she exhaled. You're still a fool. And you're still the smartest person I know. She almost smiled. Almost. Outside, the city flickered, restless, scarred alive. I had returned not to reclaim what was mine, but to stand beside her. And for the first time since I climbed out of that submarine in Red Hook, I felt what I hadn't dared to feel. Hope.